The first thing Elias Chen noticed about Las Vegas was its human ultraviolet vibration under the shriek of tourists and the throb of neon. It wasn't noise in the ordinary sense. It was more like a tuning fork struck against the desert. A note pitched just below hearing that made the hair on his forearms stand up and prickle. The strip glittered like an electronic mirage. But Elias, armed with a spiral notebook and a mathematician's focus, hadn't come for the lights. He'd come for the numbers hiding behind them. Elias was 22 and looked younger, a wiry slip of a man with black hair always in disarray, as though every comb stroke was wasted motion. 2 semesters from finishing at MIT, he'd found his lectures hollow compared to the frisson he felt when attacking an unsolved pattern. So he'd walked away, hopped a Greyhound west, and followed Rumour to the Palazzo Nocturne, Vegas's newest palace of slots, sucked into existence seemingly overnight between 2 older resorts. No one, Elias asked, could remember what had been demolished to make space. The gap had simply manifested, then filled with marble, gunmetal glass, and 7 cascading tiers of windows shaped like fangs. Inside, the air curled around him. The scent of jasmine and cold iron, and the hum rose to a symphony. Elias's earbuds stayed pocketed. He needed raw ambience. He drifted toward the rows of slot machines, each decked in chrome, each screen ablaze with fruit, sevens, and cosmic fractals. Above every roll of reels, a slender cable, translucent, ran upward into the ceiling's gloom like a vein. He watched for an hour, noting how winds blossomed in clusters, how near misses rippled outward like stones in water. While tourists chased free drinks, Elias chased sequences. 314, 592, the unsteady appearance of the number 8 after every 23rd spin. Nothing in Vegas was truly random. Everything was built to appear random while tilting probability a micro-degree toward the house. If he could model that bias, he could surf its crest. At 11, he chose a machine near the central fountain, a chrome leviathan named Cosmic Crucible. He fed in a single crisp 20 and began to play. Spin, spin, pause. His pen scratched loops of data. Blink, blink, whir. He changed bet size whenever the machine flashed blue in its lower corner, an LED most players didn't even know existed, because he saw the color flicker precisely 7 spins before a sizable payout. And then just as his 20 should have died, the screen blazed noon, bright, and belched out $1,200, 0 cents, in credit. Tourists gasped, slot attendants hustled over. Elias barely smiled. A good first pass, confirmation the pattern was real. The noise was there, yes, but underneath was a heartbeat he could sink to. He cashed out and walked to another bay, leaving the Cosmic Crucible cooling like a hunted animal. From a mezzanine, someone watched. The Palazzo Nocturne's penthouse was panelled in obsidian glass. At its centre, reclined on a chaise long enough to hold a limousine, lay a woman wearing a dress of midnight sequins. Her name tonight was Lady Leora. Diamonds hung at her ears like trapped starlight, but her eyes were the richer jewels, old, crimson, lamplit from within. She rested one manicured finger on a slender tablet whose screen showed every slot on the main floor, the names of current players glowing faintly above each machine. When Elias's jackpot triggered, Leora felt it before the tablet beeped. A sweet pressure behind her teeth, as if champagne foam had filled her skull. The Palazzo siphoned luck from the patrons through the cables Elias had seen, and Leora was the Palazzo. The building's foundation was her sarcophagus. Its buffet nightclub and private high-roller salons were chambers of her mouth and throat. The cables danced like nerves in her fascia. Every coin drop was a pulse of blood. The lucky, those with reservoirs of improbability, tasted intoxicating, bronzed, airy, alive. But the counters, the ones who could see the gears behind the illusion, were rarer fare. Their minds glimmered with fractal edges and prime valleys. Digest a counter, keep him content but tethered, and his talent sharpened the house's appetite for decades. Elias stayed up until dawn. By then, 6 machines bore his fingerprints. By then, he'd walked away $51,000 ahead. A supervisor appeared with a demure cough. Mr. Chan? Management congratulates you. They'd like to offer you a suite on the house. Elias almost said no. He'd planned to sleep at a downtown hostel, so no one linked room number to bankroll. But curiosity tugged. Suites meant time to scribble without cafeteria noise, meant privacy to run simulations on his laptop. He accepted, and the supervisor guided him to a private elevator that shot upwards so fast his stomach lagged behind. The door opened on a vast chamber. Dark oak walls, velvet drapes, windows overlooking a sea of neon. At its center stood Lady Leora, tall, lithe, luminous, though the light seemed to come from below her skin rather than any chandelier. "We can," she said. Word travels. She extended a hand. Skin cool, not cold, fragrance of white camellia. The Palazzo Nocturne delights in guests who treat probability as an art. "We expect you'll enjoy yourself here." Her gaze felt like being X-rayed. Elias found himself nodding. "I planned to," he said, then added, "I never told anyone my name." A smile thinned her lips. "Luck, whispers." He stayed 3 nights. During the day, he pored over distribution curves, modeling the rhythm of reels the way ornithologists track migratory swans. At dusk, he ventured down, always to a new cluster of slots, integrating fresh data. Each night, he won more than the last. Had he paused to consult the window, he might have noticed. The sky never showed sunlight, only a moth-colored twilight that seemed to brood above the desert, but he rarely looked up. The 4th night, his pen faltered. Not due to ink, his hand simply froze. An odd vertigo, as if his mind had miscounted steps climbing an invisible stair. He blinked at the cosmic crucible's numbers and they blurred into unreadable slurry. For the first time since arriving, he lost. Only $2,000, nothing catastrophic, but enough to rattle him. He took a breath, let the noise of the room resolve, clinks, laughter, the hush of distant AC, and reached for his notebook. Someone slid onto the adjacent stool. "Mind if I play?" a gravel-soft voice asked. Elias turned. A woman perhaps in her mid-50s, hair a riot of grey curls, eyes the colour of denim faded by sun and regret. She wore a denim jacket studded with enamel pins. Airlines, national parks, a rust-flecked 4-leaf clover. "Machines free," Elias said. She played 1 credit, lost, then kept spinning leisurely. "Name's Maribel. Been here a while?" "How long's a while?" Elias asked, half listening, nerves realigning. Maribel flicked the spin button as if it were a Zippo. 37 years, give or take. Came for a weekend and never found the exit worthwhile." She eyed him. "You're new blood, aren't you?" "I guess. Careful, the house likes talent." Elias laughed. "Every casino likes talent if it means bigger bet." Maribel shook her head. "They like the usual sort whales with more ego than sense. But you see the pattern. That's rarer. The Palazzo will court you, and if you're not watchful, it'll marry you." Her spin hit 2 sevens and a skull icon. The machine spat tokens that gleamed like teeth. Maribel left them in the tray untouched. "When I came, this place was the Aurora Hotel. Different curtains, same appetite." A chill prickled Elias's spine. He glanced at the ceiling and saw a faint pulse travel along the nearest cable when Maribel's tokens clattered. "Look," she said, gesturing at the tray. A faint mist, not steam, something more ethereal, rose from the coins and drifted upward into the cable. "That's your luck leaving. Once the house has tasted enough of it, it doesn't let go." Elias forced a smile. "Every slot is a slow-motion mugging. That's the business model." Maribel leaned closer. "Doors here don't stay put, kid. Try to leave at sunrise, you'll see." She pocketed a single coin, stood, and vanished into the hive of machines before he could reply. Curiosity combated exhaustion, so at first light, Elias descended to the grand lobby. The revolving doors should have opened onto Las Vegas Boulevard's waking traffic, but when he stepped through, he emerged absurdly into a side corridor lined with service closets. He walked back, pushed the doors again, and came out near the Baccarat salon. A third attempt led him to the high-limit lounge, where silk-wallpapered walls muffled even time. His pulse hammered. He tried employee exits, freight elevators, a stairwell down to the parking garage. All corkscrewed him back inside like threads on a screw. Each loop ended closer to the central gaming floor, like tidal pull. The palazzo was folding space around him. He hurried to his suite, locked the door, and tore across paper with frantic scrawl. He'd mapped Markov chains, non-Euclidean grids, Gödelian loops in topology seminars, but never lived within one. If the casino was a torus knitted from corridors, an exit lay at a singularity point where probability knotted so tight it broke. Create enough entropy and the weave might split, his laptop whirred. He modeled the casino's floor plan from memory, representing each doorway as a node, each corridor as an edge, weighting transitions by the frequency he'd observed, then added hypothetical hidden vertices. The model rhymed with a 7-node cycle known in deep network theory as a Mobius cage. Every path returned to origin unless a particular edge's weight hit zero, unless its probability collapsed. He needed to crash a probability to zero. That night he descended not to the slots but the craps pit, where outcomes were fewer and crowds louder. With each bet he hedged both pass and don't pass lines in a calibrated dance, flooding the table with conflicting wagers. Dealers stared. When players asked what he was doing, he answered, "Writing static." The felt became a storm of chips sliding over one another in reckless tides. At first, he lost steadily, house edge unmasked. But every loss, paradoxically, increased noise. When dice tumbled off the table, he let them fall, refusing fresh sets until the stickman grew flustered. Supervisors converged. Cameras pivoted like vultures. Statistical anomalies propagated. A shooter rolled 13 straight 11s, an event with odds so remote gamblers screamed horse. Elsewhere, jackpot sirens misfired, announcing phantom wins. The chandelier shuddered, as if buffeted by wind none could feel. In her penthouse, Leora rose from the chaise, crimson eyes fuming. Probability was her bloodstream and something was clotting it. She swept down corridors that lengthened obediently before her stride, trained heels clicking like metronomes. Floor security grabbed Elias's elbow. "Sir, you need to come with—" The lights died. A thump shook the building, then every slot machine erupted into showers of sparks. Chips rattled off tables, ricocheting like hail. In the dark, patrons shrieked. Elias broke free, sprinting toward the service hall he'd traced on his models as the singular edge. A magnetic lock barred it. He slammed keypad numbers at random, but without power the door stayed sealed. Behind him grew quiet, preternatural hush after chaos. Then a voice, smooth as still water. "Elias." He turned. A glow advanced. Leora, lit from within, skin luminous, pupils narrow as needlepoint. Around her, air rippled with heat, as though reality contorted to keep respectful distance. "You almost starved me," she said, words ringing the metal walls. "All that noise, and yet—" She touched fingertips to her chest. "You tasted so bright through it." Elias backed against the sealed door. "This place is an animal. It feeds. Aren't we all?" She glided closer. "I was palaces before slots existed. I was Monte Carlo's gaslights, Venice's masked carnivals. Cities invite risk. Risk distills luck. Humanity brews it like champagne and I sip. But counters like you don't surrender luck. You mint it. Stay, Elias. Sit at my tables forever. I'll give you wings of numbers, halls of theory. You'll never be bored." He swallowed. "I don't want to be a battery. You misunderstand." Her smile elongated into something feral. We'd be symbiotic. I house your brilliance, you feed my hunger. Immortality for you, eternity for me. A glitch fluttered in the overhead emergency bulbs, on, off, on, and he saw for a heartbeat her true shape. Lips darker than wine, canines pearled, dress woven from the same cables that threaded the ceiling. He thought of being spun into those wires, brain a perpetual generator. No, he said, surprising himself with the steadiness of the syllable. Leora's eyes narrowed. Then I shall bleed you dry tonight. She lunged. Elias hurled the spiral notebook. Pages fluttered, spattering equations like shuriken. Useless. Her hand closed on his throat, nails piercing just shy of skin. You wanted patterns? She hissed. Behold, the oldest pattern is predator and prey. Dark spots invaded his vision. Instinct, not intellect, sparked. He jammed his left hand into his pocket, found the single-slot coin Maribel had shown him. Luck crystallized. He slammed it against the steel door behind him and thought of zero probability, of dividing by null, of asymptotes that never meet but slice space into halves. In his mind he repeated 0, 0, 0, and felt the coin heat. The door groaned, not opening, but dissolving like salt in rain. Elias fell backward into a shaft of dawn. Real, colour-washed, smelling of sagebrush and distant asphalt. He gasped desert air so cold it stung lungs unused to it. Behind him, Leora shrieked as sunbeams lanced the threshold. Smoke curled from her arms and she recoiled, face blistering, their knitting closed in melting loops. She might have been unstoppable by night, but dawn was older than she was. Elias ran. He didn't know where, he only knew a way. The Palazzo No-Turn towered behind him, windows dimming like dying embers. With each stride, glass tarnished, chrome dulled, signage flickered to static before going black altogether. Then, with a groan that shook pigeons from ledges, the structure contracted. 3, 2, 1 stories, until it was a squat ruin whose walls looked a century abandoned. Cars on the boulevard honked, oblivious. Joggers sidestepped him. To them, the dilapidated husk had always been there, caution-taped and boarded. His hotel suite, the penthouse, the slots, none had ever existed. Elias bent double on the curb, head between knees, panting. His throat bore 4 crescent bruises. In his fist remained the coin, now dull lead. He held it to light. An imprint had appeared on its face, Möbius loops entwined around a woman's eye. A denim sleeve dropped over his shoulder. Maribel crouched, offering a bottle of water. Told you, she said quietly. In daylight, deep crow's feet framed her grin. Took me 3 decades to find the seam. You managed in 4 days. I had your coin. Keep it. Souvenir. She paused. You can leave Vegas today, Elias, but listen. Casinos are migrating beasts. Next decade they'll perch in Macau, then maybe orbitals around Mars. Leora will heal. She'll remember your flavor. Elias unscrewed the cap, drank. Sparkling water tasted faintly of metal, but cleansing. Let her remember? I'm done gambling. Maribel gave a sad chuckle. That's what we always say. A taxi screeched curbside. She hailed it for him, pressed a roll of 20s into his palm. His original stake returned, as though the last 4 nights were negative space. She waved as the cab pulled off, and he realized sunlight revealed fine cracks in her cheeks, like porcelain that might soon flake away. Freedom demanded its own tithe. As the strip receded, Elias looked back once. The boarded husk that had been the Palazzo Nocturne slouched between 2 bright resorts. For a breath, he thought he saw cables writhe behind a window, snake to the roof, searching. Then a billboard truck drove past, blocking view. The hum was gone. In its absence, the city sounded almost human. Sirens and laughter and engines. Elias pressed a hand over his heart, counting beats random, chaotic, alive. Beyond, the desert shimmered under patient sun, its sand older than any roulette wheel, its silence deeper than any algorithm. He leaned into the seat's upholstery and for the first time in days allowed himself to close his eyes. Somewhere in that darkness, slot reels still spun, but he let them whirl away, uncounted.